Hey, everybody. It's 4 o'clock. We will call to order the regular meeting for Georgetown Divide Public Utility District Board of Directors. We could get a roll call, please, Tom.
Director McDonald,
Here.
Director Seaman. Here. Director Stovall,
Present.
Director Fisher,
Present.
Director Saunders.
Present. Because we do have one member via teleconference, we will have all of our votes via roll call. If Director Seaman can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of course. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag, the United States of America, to the republic
for which it
that stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's like row your boat there. We almost have it. This is right after row. All right, adoption of the agenda. Is there any agenda changes? All right, seeing none, any public comments on the agenda? Seeing none, there a motion? Move approval. Second. Motion on approved. Roll call, please.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman. Aye. Director Stovall,
Aye.
Director Fisher.
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye. The agenda is adopted. Public comments, if any member of the public desires to make comments, please head to the podium, begin by stating your name. Remember that the board members cannot take any action on these public comments. All right, public comments.
All right. Hi there. My name is Mike. I'm with Sierra Fire Services. We're out of Shiloh Springs, California. We have remote hydrant systems. For those of you guys who haven't heard about it, we usually contract to CAL FIRE, US Forest Service, and when large incidents break out, we supply water for those incidents. So when infrastructure ends for, a small CSD, we come in and help out in that situation. So we'll go to lakes, rivers, creeks, ponds, wherever we can find water and go and put a pump down at that location. That pump is capable of running up to 500 feet to roadside, which is where we want to be for apparatus filling. So at that point, there's an on-off switch that tells that pump to start and stop. So they pull up, it's kind of like a gas station, if you will. Pull up, hook up their truck, fire it on, depending on how much the truck holds, 3,000 to 4,000 gallons. These things will fill up to 400 gallons a minute plus. So I wanted to just drop off some paperwork and give you guys some info. We're partnering with Clear Lake currently. They picked up 7 this year. And what they did, their fire chief went through, got grants from these gentlemen, and they're having the CSDs deploy them if and when they're needed. So we were told, hey, that's a place you guys could probably help out your local area. Like I said, we're out of Shingle Springs, and this would be for, it's not going to be a great place for Folsom. They've got a hydrant on every corner. Where up here, that's just limited. And when some of these CSDs and Clear Lake were telling us that, they can sustain one of their hydrants for about an hour. And after that, they need to shut it down or they're going to run out of water for everyone. So we thought that was interesting. And it's something we thought we'd hand out to you guys. And here you go. I'm going to hang out till the end if you have questions.
Yeah, that's a question. So if we have a ditch within 500 feet of a road, then that road has access to the ditch without
Correct. Like
anything but a hose.
Exactly. It's a 3-inch line running from that pump to that point. So right now it's kind of archaic how they do it. If it's not within 20 feet of the roadside and within 20 feet, they can't get to it. They need to have a hydrant essentially is what they do. Or they set up something called a distribution center. They'll park a truck there. People will fill off of that truck and go out. So it's when you got, 5 or 6 of these things set up, you're capable of moving a lot more water, getting it to the fire in a lot faster setup. We do have a permanent install at the D'Agostino Reservoir. If anybody want to drive by 7505 Mount Malcolm Road, it's right there on the left-hand side, but it shows we got a keypad set up. So all the fire personnel over there have it. They actually utilized it last week for a small fire. So they were able to punch in their keypad, hook up their truck, and off they went. So it's a process in play that people are utilizing, but we think it's a great idea.
Great, thank you.
What's the name of the company? Sierra Fire Services is the company. remote hydrant as the product.
Thank you.
You bet.
I do have something to say. I need to bring up fire hydrants, not with you, with the fire department, because from what I'm hearing, they're not getting really good feedback on broken hydrants or, you know, when they get fixed, have to report on them, different things like that. So it needs to be a little better
That will
coordinated.
be discussed later.
Okay. I'm just saying. And then also, if you're not aware of it, potentially Garden Valley's going to be overseeing Georgetown and Mosquito.
Yes.
Okay. By the, you know, they're trying to hire, do a captain at Mosquito because both those districts are not doing very well.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Any other public comments? Any online? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comments. Consent agenda, any items to be pulled? Seeing none,
Yep.
okay,
The two.
well, I looked and, go ahead,
I'd like to pull B and C.
okay. Any other? Seeing none online, any public comments on consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve item A?
Motion to approve A. Second.
Roll call, please.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman,
Aye.
Director Stovall,
Aye.
Director Fisher.
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye, motion passes. Item B, wanna give an update on that?
Yeah, we have taken a few policies that needed some small updates, things that have been, sorry, I'm getting to it right now, I'm trying to find that word. Things that were, yearly things that we update, i.e., procurement policy. We updated a couple of words in the inclement weather policy. Asset management was updated slightly, and the investment policy has to be updated every year because of law changes. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board members. Brian Hughes is actually the attorney who worked on the changes to policy, so you got the right man in the room for it. So
Okay, thank you. Director Seaman?
I was mainly the procurement policy, because there was lots of redlining and lots of changes in this one. And I thought, things like, items like this need to be coming before the board, not put on consent. That was one reason I pulled it. The other thing is I don't understand why are we changing it from 500 to 1,000? When we really don't have a reason to change it.
because that's standard in government financing.
Standard,
It's a standard practice, like a best management practice.
what legal reason do we have for changing it? Standard practice isn't this at our discretion as a board of what we're going to put down here? And if other people wanted to put $1,000 or $10,000, that's their choice. So why are we needing to change it?
It's usually due to inflation. There's the inherent inflation of cost of goods, such that if it's standard practice for an agency to purchase in bulk their printer paper and it costs X amounts, but due to inflation, they're now hitting this cap. So the operational efficiency of the agency is hampered by the inherent lack of ability to do what they did just because things are getting more expensive.
But the problem is we haven't heard about any issues with that prior to this, and all of a sudden now we're just raising it up because of standard practice. I mean, if we can see that, what you're purchasing, has an overall, expenditure, because I was thinking also like, and I'm not trying to hit this hard, but just for like our public outreach and items we purchase for the public outreach. We don't necessarily see those items in a bundle of, okay, this is what 4th of July costs. This is what, Founder's Day costs. You know, I'm trying to come up with all these the items, and we should kind of see what the cost is to see, is it something we really want to continue doing or not based on cost, total cost. And so I'm seeing, you know, the movement of these numbers isn't really a necessity at this point. I can see it when we see that there's a reason for it. Then I can say, yeah, you're right. That justifies it. And then we also have a section that was pulled out that we had specifically put in when Director Saunders and I did this policy. And that's on 4.08. I guess it's not an important or applicable is why it was redlined out of here.
4.08, you said?
4.08,
Minority-owned businesses.
pardon me?
The women in minority-owned business preference.
Yeah.
So that has come under a lot of scrutiny in the courts as being not allowed under California law. That we can't provide those preferences anymore, and the courts have been very distasteful with these types of policies for government.
So the government has changed their ways of handling, because I mean, we had this discussion a lot. Because of course, this is being in the neighborhood we're in. We figured it was going to be very, how do you want to say it? Controversial. When we first initiated this. And I'm still confused because I know, like at the federal government level, that's the preference. You know, you have your certain groups that get a preference over someone else, small businesses, etc. So I'm surprised that we're not putting this down, you know, revamping it as small business. And you know, I'm stumbling here because it seems like we're backing up into the 60s and not continuing on with trying to help our local group and any minority based or women based, if women can or cannot be minorities.
We can consider proposing it with alternative language that could potentially achieve the same end goal. If that's the direction you'd like us to take.
I would like to see that something put in, so it's not just blanket, we're cutting out, you know, the small business, minority-based business.
And I'll answer the question about the $500 thing. You typically, it doesn't change anything that you all would see on your end anyway. It just changes the procurement within our accounting software. So everything that we purchase still comes out and you'd still all see it. It's all part of the financials. It doesn't change anything on the internals of what is submitted. It just changes when we have to do a special, what we call a requisition order inside of our software. So it doesn't change anything on transparency or anything like that. It just changes the system that we have in place in our system. So it's not really changing anything that would be for the public or to anybody to see anything, because it's all there anyway. And we do see problems with the $500. That happens very, very often. More often than not, we have to go back and do requisitions, and so I don't advertise those problems to the board because it's not really doesn't rise to that level of issue, but we do run into some issues with purchase orders being up at $500. So that was one of the reasons why we went to 1,000. It's not abnormal. I understand. I hear what you're saying. I'm totally not trying to discount what you said. It's not abnormal to do this. And we did increase some of the other spending limits and spending authorities the last time this was updated. So that's what we're doing here, is just kind of cleaning this piece up.
Director Stoll?
In the cover page for this, it talks about minor edits made to the thresholds and then also the deletion of the women and minority-owned business preferences due to legal risk of challenges to said practices. Do you have a personal or a corporate anecdote of where this has been pushed in other agencies that your law firm represents? Because I see a real cost benefit of if we can avoid legal costs, that's the way to go.
I've seen this being pulled across a lot of my clients because of the risks. Have I had to defend against this? No, I haven't.
Okay.
Could I bring anecdotes? I can potentially, I could, I could. I think, what I don't have prepared is kind of the legal analysis of why this could be or should be kept in or pulled out.
Okay.
And I can provide that next time so you guys can make a more informed decision.
All right, but what you're seeing is it's set precedent across utility districts and others.
Yes, particularly ones with large infrastructure demands, because those are the ones where I see the most challenges too. So those are the ones that are usually at risks during the bidding process.
Thank you.
Director Fisher?
I just wanted to note that local business is still left in the policy. I think you talked a little bit about local, a little bit of minorities, so the portion about local business preferences left in here seems to be untouched. Also wanted to note, you noted that the rates at which purchase orders and bids and things are required tend to go up incrementally with inflation, which is also related not just to the value of the product, but the value of the labor required to make the purchase.
Yes.
The purchase order takes another fraction of an hour. That's a cost to that item on top of it. So as that labor cost becomes more of a significant fraction of the cost of purchase, it makes sense to streamline that and raise those thresholds.
And then I will add, most of the larger organizations I've seen have moved this way as well because of the administration and the ability to get federal grants, because they've had a strong move against DEI stuff. And we are a governmental agency, and technically that is can be a challenge because Prop 209 does make that you cannot use that preference for bidding. So although we did put it in, it can be challenged. So if there is language that we can have that does fit Prop 209, then that's if we could bring that back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would kind of prefer that,
Yeah.
that he brings something back rather
That's
than,
exactly what I said.
yeah, rather than seeing us backslide.
Yeah.
I'd rather provide you with the ability to do these things without having to
Have legal
run the
challenges.
risk of a lawsuit if I can do it.
Yeah, so that would be beneficial. That'll keep us risk averse, as Director Stone will say, keep the spirit of what we're trying to do at the district, as Director Suman said, so that'll work. What's everyone's pleasure on the procurement level? So I see this is just looking at the purchase orders and the quotes and solicitations. Everything else still comes back to the board in terms of what we will see in purchases and stuff like that. So I don't think that really affects our oversight. It does help, as we talked about, was said with inflation and things moving up, that having quotes under 500 probably starts becoming more work.
So what is the inflation? For our expert, I'm sure would say it's like, let's say it's 20%, just put a number on it, that still doesn't get you to 1,000. So I can see if we're gonna come up by inflation, then we should do it up by inflation, not just a blanket number.
I guess we can have that back and look at that. If it's 750 or whatever, we'll go up by that increment. So I guess the directive is to come back and see what the inflational numbers looks like and get Prop 209 language to avoid any issues with that.
No problem.
If there's an appetite for it, I'm pretty happy with it, the way it's written, and then come back with a with a 209 insertion to amend it later and move forward the way it is.
Since we're bringing it back, there is no need to do piecemeal of it, so let's just bring it all back and do it all at once, I think. All right, there is public comment on this item?
I just have a question. On there, usually in the past, when you do, take, cross out the old, put in the old still stays black. But this is red, it's kind of confusing to me.
Right,
So like you'd have 500 in black and then the 1,000 in red. That would be the change.
yep. They did have the 5 crossed out and the ones in.
Yeah, but it's in red.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So shouldn't it technically say,
500 with the strike on it, so I'd see.
and then put 1,000 separate in red?
So if Taylor is able to,
It's just, that's a Microsoft
Love
Office.
office
Tell us how to
thing.
do that.
Well, we could, but that was just a formatting thing with Microsoft Office is what I think, and what I see.
It either fully strikes out sometimes or changes to red, but if we can figure that
Just
out. so
in
we
the
can
past,
have
the
it.
old was always one color and new is another. And then this is all based on the budget. You still have to be in the budget.
Right. Yeah, this is just for,
Everything is like that. That's.
this is just
There
for,
wasn't.
this is just for the quote, so if we have a item that costs 250, well, 600 right now, then it would require, quotes and a purchase order. Because
Just
our,
purchase order.
well, no quotes, yeah, because we were under 500, so this would now move that to 1,000, it doesn't
Okay,
change
that's
anything.
different. What you're different than a bid.
Yeah. Formal bidding is at 75,000 and regular quotes are 5 to 75,000. And it also depends on what we're doing. Sometimes even within that range. we
If
may
it's
still-
professional services, we can still use quotes.
Yeah.
It depends on if it's infrastructure or construction, that's when you have to have a formal bid process. So if it's like, we're hiring an engineer, that's a quote. If we're hiring an accountant or an auditor, that's a quote. But if we're building a building, that's a bid. Or if we're
Okay.
building a pipeline, that's a bid.
Is that written?
It's in there, yeah. There's different, one is called a construction. It's I don't know which section it is, but one section is professional services and one section is.
Well, there's purchasing and contracting, is one section.
So hang on, let me see if I can find it back. Right.
So realistically, that can be looked into and brought back when that policy comes back.
So that's under asset management.
No, it's purchasing, procurement policies, what we're talking about right now.
You sure we followed that section?
Well,
Follow
it's the asset management
the
policy.
law contracts, and we can look at it. Director Starman, public comments still open, so. Public comments still open, Director McDonald, so I'll get to you after. There is a hand up.
Oh, then
That's
that's
the-
Am I on?
Not yet. Wait till we finish public comment.
Yeah, but hand up.
That's it? Okay. Any other public comment?
I would just like to throw in that I think that Director Seaman has brought up a really good point. I understand that there's regulations that are trying to box in, looking for vendors and not steering them specifically. The way it's written right now, it wants the district to look at women, minorities and local businesses, but I think that is something worth preserving in an area like this, a rural area. I think we're unlikely to get bids from giant corporations that would be likely to come in and initiate a lawsuit about that sort of thing. But certainly in a rural area, you need a local business. You need to support local business. I think it's a really important thing for the board to be moving cautiously on moving away from that kind of policy.
Yeah. Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we will close public comments. Okay, Director McDonald?
May I add one thing before Director McDonald, and I don't mean to cut you off, Director McDonald. Our CPA has recommended the change to 1,000 as well, just to add that is they are questioning why, because it has to do with our audit and how we get audited, so the $1,000 is something that they've also recommended to be changed. So that it's anecdotal, but
Who's our BPA?
LSL.
Oh,
Okay, Director McDonald?
Director Saunders, did you say we're bringing this back? I'm having problems with my audio. Did you say we're bringing this back?
Yes, we'll be bringing it back with, look at, alternative language for the women and minority part, which will be able to comply with Prop 209.
Mhm.
Looking at the inflationary values of, the increase in procurement limits, and then also to review and make sure that the contract and, public contract and construction contract matches the law. I'm pretty sure we did that when we did it the first time with our competitive bid process and all of that to make sure that it's all spelled out specifically.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment then on if we knew when the last time this was changed or it was established at 500, we determine how long that's been, take the inflation since then, let's say it's 20%, that would make it $600, and then we could index it for inflation from then, you know. But then would we have to do it annually, make it a change to change the policy?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend changing a policy, but every so often we can update it to see what it looks like. This was last done last year. So
Last year?
almost 365 days ago, we ratified this July 9th, 2025.
Oh, so it'd be $510 now. Okay, I see. Yeah,
Probably.
right. So I see. Yeah, maybe we could revisit it if we did do that every few years instead of annually or something. Okay, thank you.
And also we're probably looking at construction inflation and things like that as well, not just consumer price index.
Yes, makes sense. Thank you.
Note that, well, I'll have to verify which version the $500 was put in, if it was put in last year or if it was already established.
It's been that way for over a decade.
Yeah.
So
We never changed. I don't think we changed those numbers at that lower end.
So then the question would be, would you want me to put the inflation index from the last time it was amended or the last time the $500 was put into place?
Director Seaman?
Um,
And if we did it,
either one would be fine, because if you look at it, I can't see that it's gonna be 100%. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's not gonna go from 500 to 1,000 on the index. So if we're gonna go up, you know, and go through this, you know, I can see us, you know, going to 600 or 750, but, you know, to double it, kind of not the right way to go.
It was first adopted in 2018, so that would be theoretically
Yeah.
the farthest back I would go.
okay,
Right, but I think you're gonna find that we did it probably at the, cause it's probably the 23, is probably when we walked down that path.
Yeah, but it was 500 in 2018 is what I think he's referring to.
yeah, to check.
No, I
inflation.
understand exactly what he's saying.
Okay, Jessica?
Would you like me to inquire with our CPA firm on how all the other corporations came up with threshold of 1,000? Because it is just standard practice. I don't think inflationary costs have much to do with it. It has to do with administrative time and paperwork. Anything 501, we have to put a requisition in and wait for someone else to approve it before we can make the purchase. Most organizations, but like the auditors have asked me about why our threshold is so low, have recommended we raise it to 1,000, which is standard practice.
So I would look at it in the guise of auditor recommendations than other corporations, maybe look at other agencies.
I can get that information if you'd
Yeah.
like.
And ultimately, it's our choice,
Right,
and that's what, you know. Because everybody else does it, that doesn't mean we do it.
Okay.
Director Stoll?
In my opinion, we should go ahead and accept it as is. I think given the CPA recommendation. If we look at inflation at 6% over the last 8 years, that's over 50% anyway. To me, it's a way to save staff time. As far as the other, I would prefer not to spend the money on legal fees to research the answer to this. I think we're seeing a standard practice at a political level, and we should accept it as written and be cost beneficial to attorney fees to do more analysis to it.
Are you saying accept the whole thing as it is?
Absolutely. But that's my opinion. Like you say, it's our opinion. I agree with it. It's our opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, not our opinion.
Yeah.
The discussion was to either bring it back, or and there's one person who wants to accept it as is. I would like to see that
Can I make a motion?
well, there would be no motion if we are bringing it back to review, so then there would be no motion.
When we need to have a consensus to bring it back or not to bring it back?
It wouldn't need to be a motion because we didn't have any action. It's still it would still be undergoing a process.
I have a comment, and Director McDonald does as well.
All right, Director Fisher.
I share Director Stovall's opinion that I would accept it the way it is today, but in deference to your concerns, I'm also happy to do the research we've talked about and bring it back. So.
Director McDonald.
Yeah, I agree with Director. Although Donna brings up some great points, I agree not to incur any additional costs. Penny wise, pound foolish comes to mind here. So I agree accepting it as is and bringing it back if we need to.
And I would say I would not like to throw out the ad hoc policies committee's recommendations. We worked on this for a year, so I would like to see that reviewed because we worked on this for a year with that language to try and match it in. So to not have a discussion on it would, I think, be not a good part of how we came up with this process.
So I'm happy with bring it back. I hear 3 bring it back. So.
I have a problem with that. I'm pressing it, opinion.
So there'd be no action. We bring it back with those changes and we look at it when it does come back. All right. Next item.
The incremental weather policy? That's on.
Yes, okay, incremental. Yeah.
So I'd like can I
Go ahead.
go on a rampage? On the facility close, I want an explanation on why we had it for 4 hours and not like as needed, because if the place gets shut down, it clears up. That would give you the ability to call people back in, and not be out for 8 hours and only, as a cost this is a cost, to the district.
So it's only if the facility is closed for the day. If the facility is open back up, then everybody be required to come back to the office.
But it doesn't say that.
It says if it's a day of closure, how would you like us to amend it to meet with what you're hoping for?
Well,
I only closed the office one time and I've only closed the office. I closed it one time last season for inclement weather. It was the day of the snowstorm that
Right.
the roads were closed and there was no chance that it was opening back up that day. So this isn't something that happens often.
So you're saying they only get paid for 4 hours if you close?
Hourly employees only get paid for 4 hours if we close the office. And so I didn't feel that was very fair to our employees.
Okay, now that's what I was trying to get to is what.
So I think that in all fairness to our staff who work very hard, that they should not be penalized because there's some issue that we have to close the office. They wanted to come to work, they couldn't. So
Right.
that was the issue that we saw. Right. So
Okay. All right, now I understand what it's there for. Okay, thank you.
Anything else with investment policy?
No,
Motion with that?
well, did we accept this one or?
Now, so then I would say if we'd have a motion on accepting then the, is there any public comments on inclement weather or investment policy? Okay,
You
sure.
need to get a backup internet system,
Oh,
or, well, the internet was down.
Yeah, but
The whole town.
the whole
Yeah.
town was
Right.
down, the cell phones are down too, everything
The cell
was
towers
down.
were down.
Yeah, our backup is the cell phones.
But Starlink
Yeah.
has,
That's,
So you're
that's an additional system.
Yeah, we're gonna pay an additional charge just to have a backup?
Starlink was down too due to the solar flares.
So we have a backup. Technically, our backup is if the FiOS lines, the fiber optic lines go down, it converts to a cell signal. Well, for whatever reason, Verizon had a full company-wide outage. So we did have a redundancy. Unfortunately, our redundancy was also down. So that was the issue that we
it
had.
happened.
so did they go home that day or did they?
I had to send it. We were sitting here twiddling our thumbs. We had no computers. We had nothing. I wasn't gonna make them sit here.
Oh, so everything's on a server?
Everything was on a server.
Okay.
Any comments on that? Okay, none online, closing public comments. If we could have a motion to accept the inclement weather and investment policy?
Oh,
I make them,
that weather one.
You forgot C.
And we also have the asset management.
Oh, there it is. Oh.
So
So
asset
so making a
management,
motion on the increment weather, I make a motion that we accept the changes to the increment weather policy.
I second.
And the investment and asset management.
I'm only making it for that one so that we can,
Oh, you have
Does-
questions on investment?
the investment policy it's the updates we have to do every year. It has to do with, it's a legal
we
requirement.
can go through it. That's why we just,
Oh, yeah, we can
If
absolutely
you
go through
wanna
it.
go through it. I didn't have any questions on it, so do you have questions on
well, yeah, I just wanted to know why these changes were being made.
it? It looks like government code, but if.
Yeah, so every year the government code changes.
Right.
And so we just have to do these and our investment advisor goes through all this and updates the changes.
Okay, now I make a motion.
Well, we brought it up though, now if there's any public comment on investments. and
Well, I
stuff.
had a motion already out.
Well, we did discuss it, so now it's open for public comment on investments if there's any on that. Okay, seeing none, any from online? Okay, public comment is closed. Okay, back to our motion.
I guess I'm amending my motion that we were supposed to have done something of. So this, I am now making a motion that we accept the incremental weather and the investment policy. With the changes that have been presented to us.
And
Action,
asset
second.
management.
I second.
Asset management is different than procurement. The one you had questions about with the women in
That
business,
Those
that's procurement. So asset
Yeah.
management, we increased, that is a government finance standard of going from $1,000 to $5,000, $1,000 to $5,000 of depreciating. We can't depreciate anything
Right.
so that was what that changes, if you would like to accept that, but up to you.
And I'll add that to it because I didn't have any questions on that.
There are seconds still good, Director McDonald?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman,
Aye.
Director Stovall,
Aye.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye. Motion passes.
I
Oh,
became,
you
I became a doctor.
All right.
I'm a doctor.
Donald said bye.
Get a picture of that.
Item C, the vacuum trailer and the excavator.
That's not special.
Yeah, so this was 2 items that were approved in the CIP. They are part of the rate portion of the CIP that we have approved at the board level. So the back trailer that we have now is the better part of over 10 years old. And it has been going to the shop pretty regularly for repairs. So we are looking to replace that with a newer unit. And the excavator is a specialty unit that has adjustable tracks. that we'd like to utilize for getting inside canals to do work inside of canal areas where we have not been able to get inside of canals. So it has a very narrow trackability to get inside canals.
Questions, Director Seaman?
So what we have asked, every time we're doing kind of a replacement, is we ask to see the costs that were incurred to justify getting something new. And so I see that, you know, it says 32. I'm kind of more, instead of all this narrative, to see it in the sheet like what we used to ask for, where the item would be listed. This was the dates of all the expenses on the cost. And then the new one is now 83, and how is fixing this one justifying, you know, the difference in the amount?
New one would have a warranty, so we would have several years of not having to pay maintenance costs. And as it gets older and older, the repairs are getting more expensive.
Right,
And
but
it's
we,
down more, and we're having to rent a backup unit, stuff like that.
right, but I guess my point is, we've always asked for, this is the equipment that has a problem, this is a list of expenses
Sure.
that have been incurred on this, on these dates and multiple times. You know, it's kind of like when we did the whole thing. And this is kind of going back to when Stormborough was here, that he had asked for this and that we had constantly been requesting this. For every item you want to replace, we want to see the breakdown of why it's justified.
So I mean, I understand, that's fine. We discussed this in the budget. That's why we went ahead with this, because it was discussed several times during the budgeting process that we were going to be bringing this up and doing this and why we were doing it. So I don't have we can get the numbers for you, we're happy to, but I don't have them in front of you today.
Yeah, but we went through this in the CIP planning, but. You know, we did the vacuum excavator trailer,
Yeah, I mean, typically I don't recall being asked for specific line items. I kind of give us a summary of, you know, costs, like what I did in there, you know, from a certain period. And just really just trying to paint the picture of what it has cost us and what a new one costs us, and you know I guess I'm not anticipating costs moving forward. You know, is that over time, you know, you're repairing more than you're using. It's going to cost you more money. I can be more detailed and further.
So that's what we've asked for. And same way as, like, you remember the dump truck, we asked for, you know, what's the cost of repairing this thing over a specific time, and you had, you know, came back with a list of these were the costs, and this is over time, how much it's cost us, and that's why we're requesting to get a new truck. And so that's all I'm asking, is that this is great, you know, that we did pass it in the budget, that was fine, but everything we need to see, and we need to see it broke down. We, you know, same way with like the truck we don't get a new truck at 50,000 miles. We get a new truck when that truck has had this long list of issues, and it's now costing us more to keep it than to replace it.
and I would add in, it's not just the cost. We do have an asset management program. So there is also a breakdown of categories on when we get stuff, so that can be presented as well.
That's also included in the budget. We did include that document in the budget.
But the cost has already been approved,
Correct.
as I understand it.
Oh, we're doing, I can't approve any costs over $50,000.
Right.
So even though you've approved the budget and it's in the budget, we still as staff have to come back to you all as board members and get approval to make any purchase over $50,000, unless it's an emergency. But so that's why we're bringing it to you at this point.
I guess if we could add the asset management report to it that says this meets priority A, B, C, or whatever, and we add that to our staff report, that would probably help board members and refresh the memory.
Would
And do we also have it where, you know, this is the best buy? Yeah.
So I saw Sourcewell, and if that's in there, so we
With
utilize,
the Ditch Witch and Holt.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, you're saying, so are we saying that you've gone to multiple locations to see who's gonna give us the best.
That's what Sourcewell does for us. Sourcewell is like a mega bidding system where all these companies submit their products into Sourcewell and gives their best and their biggest or lowest and best price. And so it's looked at as a under the Uniform Construction Code. I can't remember what the whole acronym is. It's UCCMP or something like that. They recognize this program as a bidding alternative that is acceptable for public agencies because we are a member of it. We are able to utilize their work as opposed to having us do the legwork of doing the bidding.
Okay.
So it's really the alternative would be going to each cat dealership and getting quotes. This year's going right to the manufacturer. The manufacturer has already gone to this Sourcewell cooperative purchase agreement and done that process for us already.
Okay. And it gives us 20% off the price.
Yep, absolutely. We use this for truck buying, any kind of major equipment buying, because anything that's common, like big purchases, they will submit all their prices and then we can just go in there and kind of, oh, that's the one we want. And then here's the bidding, here's who has the best price in our area.
Right, and then it comes, we get to see the warranty on it also.
I will say sorry, Director Fisher, I will say the vehicle, the standard pickup truck, it's not as competitive, but when equipment, you can really see the difference.
Okay.
Just curious, any of the equipment being replaced running into air quality compliance problems?
That's not this one.
Not those. So then with the equipment being replaced, do those get surplus?
Yes.
So there'll be some residual funding coming back.
We use Gov deals and we put everything up on the auction site, so it's whatever the auction site brings.
Anything else?
I'm kidding.
So if you need a good Vector, you know where to go bid.
Unfortunately, board members are prohibited.
we are
from
prohibited.
purchasing.
Yeah, that's a hard no.
I think I knew that.
Unlike Congress, we can't, Director Stonewall.
I support the way it's written. I don't see a reason to bring it back.
Right.
Just a personal comment. We've had 3 generations living on our farm at one point in time, and I am very appreciative of the district looking at not only what's cost effective now, but looking at the price going up for equipment and looking at repairing and keeping things maintained for the long picture. I like that perspective that both the board and the staff are looking at.
Director McDonald? Anything else?
24 months is standard warranty.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and probably wouldn't use it 2,000 hours, not 4 hours a day, but if that makes sense to you, okay.
No, it gets used pretty regularly, and when it's on a job site, it's working more than a couple hours at a time.
Yeah, the back trailer could for sure. That gets used almost every single day.
Yeah, so this is what we use to excavate any like holes. It's basically, instead of using a shovel, it uses water to excavate the dirt. It's a safer way. We don't break things that way.
More efficient.
More efficient. It's easier on the guys. No, back injuries are lessened. So yeah, it gets used quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
An outage could go from say 8 hours to 2 days too, if you have a piece of equipment like this.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? From the public, any online? Not online, closing public comments.
A motion approval of consent agenda item C, approval of vacuum trailer and mini excavator purchases as presented
I'll second it.
and surplus.
Roll call vote, please.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman,
Aye.
Director Stovall,
Aye.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye, motion passes.
My name just got changed.
Thank you all for your oversight on this item. Okay, financial reports. Was there any questions by board members? And then we have a new updated one. The new one updated online as well.
Okay, who can read this? Okay, let's try again. Who can read this?
That is.
It's available to the auditor. It's my concern.
Well, it's not for our review.
These reports are developed to be viewed online, so when they print out, it compresses the images, but when you view them online, you can click on them and they open full page.
I'll look at that.
No, because it's not 100% online, where our utility billing section is gonna go live in September.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing will be available and talk to each other.
Seeing if any questions, everybody a chance to review the new items. Seeing none, public comment, Sharif?
Check, 2865 is the CPA. We're almost like $22,000. Is that for 1 month's billing? That's a lot. Unless it's two.
I think most of that has to do with the conversion
Oh, okay.
from our financials, procurement, utility billing, and budget and finance, building the entire budget within the new system and not in income. So all of these reports that we built and developed,
Oh, so
that's been happening since March. They've
Okay.
been helping a lot with.
Okay, and then 2846, is that a customer situation?
No, that's our cleaning lady.
Oh, the new one now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and, where'd it go? Oh, no, there's one that says Kaiser, just Kaiser, but is that a, retirees, fee, but it doesn't have their name, which would be 2896.
Kaiser Permanente, yes. So there should be one for Blue Anthem, Kaiser Permanente. These are all of our older retirees that are on the JPIA plan, like our most recent retirees.
Right, well, Jerry Lou is too, but there's no name next to it, should they, can we have the,
That's because of
that's.
HIPAA related insurance issues we're having where I can't really discuss, but we have an arrangement
Okay, but
where
you're,
the benefits are being paid and the contracted allotment is being reimbursed instead of deducted from what's billed.
except for Jerry Lou, who's the next employee, is named. Okay.
Any other public comments? Anyone? Seeing none, close public comment. Okay. With that, we can go to board reports. Any directors have anything they'd like to report out? Director Seaman?
I had a notification of a leak that the crew went out and took care of a stubby. And now it's dried and has their cute little tape around it. So whoever's it was, problem got fixed. The reason the fire question got brought up is because we have had questions on, mapping of the fire hydrants, testing of the fire hydrants. And when one of the fire departments notifies us on a fire hydrant, that has a problem, my understanding is they're not getting told back. So it would be great if we have that information, so that, you know, when the public questions us on this, we kind of have a rough idea who everybody needs to get told that, say, whatever the fire chief is of Georgetown and Garden Valley now, he gets notified, or whoever the lieutenant is, he gets notified. So we know that things get taken care of, and not that, do they officially give us paperwork that do we now fix and then turn it back to them? And that's why this whole fire thing got brought up.
We're gonna discuss that at water resource report, so we will discuss the hydrant in there.
Fine. And then I also attended the county building standard public meeting. Wow, that was bad. They didn't know where the divide was and what towns were in the divide. So it was a little hard for me not to say something. Anyway, so they're doing building standards for the divide. They only had 2 or 3 locations actually listed. I was a little irritated that A, they didn't know where the divide was, and B, they did not include all the towns or all the areas, like Pilot Hill, they did not have on their list because it was at a lower elevation than Pool. What the heck does that have to do with anything? Anyway, if anybody's interested in going to the next meeting, which I hope is more informative, it's August 18th, 6 p.m. at the Pool Community Church. I'm done.
Nothing to report.
Director McDonald?
I took the SBA 27 fiscal and financial training and got my certificate. That's all.
Didn't get my certificate. Thanks for reminding me. I gotta
Yeah, you better get that turned in.
mess with CSDA. And I did Donna, Director Seaman and myself were at the 4th of July event, so.
So the Director Stovall.
And Director Stovall was there as well. Yep, that was correct.
Some of us were in the parade though.
And some of us were in the parade. So that was a good event, and we should be on, we will see what's coming up at the end of the month, but I'm pretty sure that we should be on the agenda for LAFCO, so. Okay, that's all that I have for my reports. Okay, we're operations report.
Yeah, so I didn't have I was out of the office for a little bit, so I didn't have a report to put together, but I'll have 2 for the next board meeting. Just quick little verbal update. Yeah, Stumpy stopped spilling June 17th. It's currently at 98% of capacity. Our true and bar production is on average for this time of year. We did a hydrant replacement this month, some valve replacement, ongoing leaks were replaced as they pop up. It's kind of the time of year when the soil dries. We see some leaks that develops. Have been working on those. And then getting into some of the grant projects. The solar's going well. We're trying to get the final plans done so we can keep that project going. USDA project, we have 100% plans that have been submitted to USDA, so we're just waiting back to comment on those probably within the next couple weeks. And that will be going out to bid shortly, hopefully either late July or August. Tank project EPA grant, we are awarded the funds for that, so you get awarded, but then actually funds are allocated to start that project, so that's going to be going as well. So the RFP will be going out for that too. And then this other CA project, since the budget was approved June, so we're starting to get going on all of those projects. First one was obviously the back trailer and excavator, and I kind of got those going first. We do have to order those, and it'll probably take a few months to get those, so I'll get those going as soon as possible. There's other ones on there we're working on as well. And then, if you want to discuss the hydrant question,
Yeah, so the first issue is, when there is an issue with like a broken hydrant or pressure issues and that goes to you, what's the process, how that gets reported out?
yeah, so typically they'll just email me and they'll say we have an issue there, and then we'll just do a task or a work order, and I'll tell them, you know, it's been completed, gas be replaced, or we had to replace the hydrant, whatever issue was. I haven't received a request from the fire department regarding a hydrant in over 2 years. I don't know if where the disconnect is. I remember they had a list, Garden Valley did 2 years ago. I remember we went through the whole list. And we got them all done. I haven't had a request from them since then. So I don't know if there's a new request I don't know about. But that's typically how we do it. We just, I just work with them via email, and we go out and do it. And I say, yeah, these ones are done. They, whatever issues that were there, fix them. Just move forward from there. It's usually just email back and forth, but I haven't received one recently.
All right. The flushing program. Do we have a plan for this year, and how far are we in that flushing program?
Yeah, so typically we do about 250 to 300 a year. We didn't do as many this year. We usually don't do them in the middle of summer. We wait till the winter season to do them. So we didn't do as many this year. We probably did about 150, and we're better at tracking them during breaks and stuff, so we get flushing at that time as well. It's the same thing. It's in my monthly staff report, my operations report, showing how many hydrants we flushed that month. But I could definitely, if there's like an end of the year summary, I could do that when I do.
Yeah, the EAR or something.
Yeah, or they go in the air for sure. How many hydrants we flush, how many backflows were tested, how many breaks we have. It's all in there as well. And that's all, gets submitted and publicly available too. But if there's more information, it's easy to pull out. It's just extra.
And then, yeah, I'll get you Director Seaman. I'm just going through the stuff that was brought up at the at our meeting, and then I'll have you add your stuff as well. And then the other thing brought up was, I know we have the GAS site with all of our hydrants. Is that able for, is there a place where the public can go and pop up their hydrant and it shows the last time it was flushed and the pressure on it? Is that up to date on our?
So we have the location. We don't have update pressure or the last it was working. We don't have that. But we do share all our GIS information with the fire department, so they have all that information. Not all the repair information, but they're under the assumption unless there's a bag on it, it's working. Unless that's the assumption the fire department operates as. There's no bags out of service, out of operation that we have to repair it. It's a working hydrant, and that can, yeah.
Is it possible with our GIS to put the pressure on it? I know the last flush, maybe that might be a stress, is the pressure.
And we've sent that information. We're working with the fire department on that, so they have that information. Gallons per minute, because that's what they've asked us for.
But for the public, so if they pull up their GIS and they can, because I know there's also an insurance requirement of where's your closest hydrant and do you know the pressure on it? So if there's something that the public is able to pull up so they could provide that to their insurers as well, that would be helpful.
So I think we could do that. Because it would basically be through our water model, because we have that information.
Yeah.
It's just not. I'd have to ask her, because right now how the public sees it is they go on our website and they see the map of the hydrants. I just don't know if they click on it, if they can see different fields regarding that hydrant or not. I'd have to look and see. I think it might just give a location, but I could ask her if there's an option. Because usually when you have that kind of interface, you have to pay for a license. So each of staff members that interface where they can click on a hydrant and see different attributes about it. I don't know how that works public facing. If that's like a $10,000 license or what it would be to maybe make that available.
Maybe we can look into see if there's a public license so that information can show up on a public facing portal.
That's something you want to work on.
I can figure that out, yeah.
We'll go with Director Seaman.
Okay.
Sorry, please, Director Seaman.
Of course. I was brought to my attention that like in my area, there were a lot of valves being changed out and,
Yeah,
does that trigger those, extinguisher or those, hydrants to be flushed? Because now, I mean, I know in my location, it was pretty muddy.
yeah.
And if it's muddy at my house, then how is it down the road, down the hill? Where'd that dirt all end up? And so, when you have a whole area that you're working in, and that's one thing that was my understanding
Yeah,
from talking to the crew, that, there's a lot of dirt and they weren't expecting that much dirt, but they did end up having a lot. And so that would put those hydrants that you tested now at risk. And so do you have some kind of protocol in place now? Or maybe queuing you into,
yeah,
that maybe we need to do that
yeah,
since you're now getting, you know,
yeah.
water that's not moving very fast and hitting in those, around those hydrants and now putting us at risk.
Yeah, so first, when they do a repair like that, it's not outside dirt from like the excavation. All that is, once if the line loses water in there, there's
Well,
buildup.
they were replacing valves.
Right, but it's not like you open a pipe and dirt gets in there and you're flushing the dirt out. It doesn't come in. I just want to make sure that's clear, right?
Okay, so
because-
I'm just saying if
yeah.
it's moving,
Yeah, so
if
yeah,
it's moving to get into my house, it's moving to get into those hydrants.
yeah. So I'm trying to
this as well.
get to what I was saying. So when you drive a pipe out, you'll have scale build up, and then you reinitiate it. So that's what that is.
Okay.
It's not dirt from. I just want to clarify that. So I don't want the public thinking we're getting dirt inside our pipes. That's all I'm from excavating. That's all I'm saying. So
Okay.
moving on from that. So yeah, so once we do that repair, we operate the hydrants in there to flush that out. To flush that material that has become disturbed from repair.
Right.
Sometimes there is residual material in the lines, and it's really how our system is. We have a lot of dead ends and we can flush as much as we want. But still if you have a main going down a culvert, it'll still get in those service lines. And we do flush, if we do a meter or a service line, we'll flush that service line clean. But it wouldn't be feasible to flush every single service line in a situation like that. I mean, we talk about hundreds of service lines. So that's why we try to provide the information on our website. If the customer can go and look and see what they could do, and we provide credits with our AMR system now. If they have to flush a lot, we just, deduct that out. But it really doesn't, when that happens, we go and flush those hydrants in that area, but it doesn't really impact the function of those hydrants. Those hydrants still work. There's still
Okay.
no problem with it. And that gets tracked for every project. How it works is, we have work orders and tasks, and say like your case with, the valves in your area, we're replacing 5 or 6 valves where we have a problem. When we go do a main break, they don't shut off all the way. So then we're trying to replace a pipe with water constantly filling the excavation up. So we're replacing those valves, we can better isolate the system. So we'll go in and do that, and then flush the hydrants once we're done to get all that water flowing.
And then your system gets updated saying that hydrant has been
Yeah,
flushed on this date also.
yeah. So it has so usually when you have a project that involves more than just like a meter read, that's like will be one task. If we go do a project like that, we'll have a work order and all these tasks go into it. So you can see the work order and see, okay, all these valves are exercised. This is what valves was replaced. This is the material you took. This is the hydrants that were flushed. These are the customers that were sampled if that needs to be, if that needs to happen.
Okay. Flushed.
Okay, Director, you try to take a name, Director Stovall, okay,
It was answered.
all right, any other directors? And I guess
Thank you.
the only thing I would add is, I know, there was those bills going through that we did, support in Congress, Senator Padilla's bill, and if that does pass, that's one that will, provide loans for water infrastructure. And then that's something we could look at if there is any areas we could have, more hydrants put in, so that'll be a project we can get funded hopefully down the line. Okay, well, we do all the reports at the end with public comment, so look to for this draft. Okay, water resources. questions? Alexis? Seeing none. We kept having bits of rain, but I don't know if it was enough to cause any issues. Alrighty. General managers reports?
I do have one, I was gonna make it during the financial reports, and I'm sorry, you got talking about other things, so I didn't update, I have an update on the grant report. I was at the Headwater Connect meeting yesterday, which is a regional group that meets to discuss projects, and it's a coordinated group with the forestry, EDWA, EID sits on it. RWA participates. There's a number of different organizations that participate with us, and they are going to support a grant. They're going to actually write a grant for us for the dredging project at Walton Lake. So part of this group is they got a very similar to what RWA did. They got a grant to have like a overarching umbrella planning area, and then they needed to find different projects. It's kind of like the IRWIM stuff but it's a little bit different. And one of the projects they were looking for was fire mitigation, restoration type things. And so we submitted the dredging project, and they're actually going to kind of upgrade from just the dredging. They want to help us improve infrastructure. So one of the things our engineer has recommended is to build silt fencing on Walton Lake, so that in the future we can capture the silt, and then we can do easier dredging, long arm dredging, something like that, as opposed to dredging the whole facility. And then they're going to tie it in with some of the logging operations up in that need to be restored as well. So it's going to be a big conglomeration project, and I'm anticipating us, if we are successful, getting approximately $5 million to do the dredging project. So we will still have a match, which we originally had a match from the original grant. I don't know how much it's going to be yet until we get all the I's dotted and T's crossed, but it's really good progress on getting that project moving.
The comments?
And then I'll just say one other thing for the GM report is we have flyers for the 80th anniversary celebration. We've so far received 12 sponsors for the event. So we will have, we went over foodstuffs today. We will have some volunteers cooking food for us. We're working on getting a snow cone booth so that it's fun for all. And we are renting a couple bounce houses for the kids. We have 2 bands that will be playing. We are going to have tables and chairs, easy ups, stuff like that. Water, sodas, everything for the community. And I believe we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500 meals, 300 hamburgers and 280, I guess more like 600, 500 hamburgers, or 300 hamburgers and 280 hot dogs. Sorry, my brain is almost working today. And the splash pad will be open so the kids can play in the splash pad. So it should be a good time for all. We've sent out invitations. I think, do you know how many booths we have? 9-ish booths of different service organizations. No vendors, no selling. Golden Sierra is going to have somebody there from their booster club. We have like the Knights of Columbus, American River Conservancy, just local organizations that can kind of promote their organizations and have fun, and our partners, the people that we do business with every day. And then that will be in tune with the groundbreaking at the Sweetwater treatment plant for the solar project, and we will have a video of the groundbreaking as well as some of the event. So we're going to kind of use this as outreaching for some of the good works that we've done around the district. So,
are you able to take any more booths?
Yeah, we're still.
I'll send you the info to see if our marshal wants to come down, because we do have the wellness center out there.
What is that the hospital?
Yeah.
We'd love that. Yeah, as long as I doubt they're selling anything.
No,
so that's our only thing is I think the only one we're letting do donations is Golden Sierra, because they have their little touchdown booster club thing.
Okay.
And it's suggesting Gold Sierra FFA.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if you have any other organizations, we have really racked our brains to try to include everybody. We literally walked around at 4th of July and invited other people and got like 3 or 4 more booths. So
Right.
totally, if you think of anybody, that's great. Taylor will look at contact information. And so that's awesome. And just so everybody's aware, we invited the local representatives, but obviously since the election season, they're not allowed to advertise their election. They're allowed to walk around and talk to people and stuff like that. And so because we work with them, we wanted to make sure that they're here, but we also don't want to give, it's not necessary for them to have a
Proselytizing.
a platform, we're not having a platform for that.
It's reasonable. All right, we will open up public comment. Well, we have a
Okay,
director.
one quick question. Is Walton being dredged now?
Not yet.
Okay,
So
I-
it's a $6 million project.
right. No, I was just asking because, I know there are things that were going on around there and,
No, not yet. What the plan is we are still working with FEMA to get final costs on what they'll pay for because they were giving us some recovery money from the fire.
Right.
And then this grant program will basically cover anything that's missing.
okay, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, public comment, Sherry?
Okay, you're not dredging Stumpy? I thought we were doing Stumpy
No,
Never talked about judging stuff.
because of the, has it all been Walton? Okay.
Somebody didn't get affected by the mosquito fire at all.
Yeah, we did the bathymetric study of Stumpy and it showed it was larger than
Well,
it
yeah,
was,
you
so then that's why we didn't do any dredging on it, because it was larger than small.
Okay, so, yeah. I highly suggest that you do more advertising if you want actual customers out there and not just people in the booth. I have seen it maybe once, maybe twice on Facebook. I would put something at the post offices.
Every post office has a flyer. We were putting these out
Wait,
at
since
every
when?
weeks ago.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well, I'm in there, I haven't seen it in Garden Valley.
Maybe
you
someone
should
took
get
it
out
down.
Cool has it.
Yeah, I mean, we have been really hitting the pavement hard to try
About
to,
sending out water smart notifications.
it's gonna be in the billing.
It was in the
You're gonna
billing.
get billing
It
and
wasn't
you're,
until it-
and we're sending out water smart notifications as well.
Okay, and then maybe the email list or whatever. I mean, I'd go extra
Yes.
hard on it
We-
because
We've been waiting to get the final banner, so we have our sponsors on the bottom, so we've been
I've
waiting.
not seen that at the post office.
They're gonna have an interview.
Well, this is a brand new one.
So, but it was similar to this, and there was one posted
I
there.
mean, I can put it down there if you want. I'm gonna go tonight.
Hand that one.
Here, here,
We
do
got it.
this. No, give her, here, if you wanna advertise.
Hey, I just said I'm just
I-
gonna do Garden Valley.
No, but if you have places that can take the little ones. Put them around places, we'd love it.
All right,
Because-
set it there and all. Okay, and then, okay, so wait a minute, they're making me wait till the end of all of this stuff. Okay, I'm done with him. So, Adam, the Stumpy, is this the latest that it's built, or do you have any records? That's.
No, it's not the latest, it's spilled in July before.
It has been July.
I think last year was spilling in July still.
And then on the hydrant, do we have like a hydrant operation policy? I really highly suggest we have something like that. And then also, who is responsible legally for the hydrants? The fire department or the water department?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
So because you're responsible for everybody's insurance being,
We're responsible for the hydrants, not the.
right,
We're not responsible for anybody's.
yeah, but for them to be active. So I remember seeing someplace to find a higher hydrant where you could check. Is that on our website or was that the town?
Our website.
Okay, but you don't know if you're keeping it updated,
Locations are definitely there, those haven't
right?
changed.
But you don't know what he was talking about, the pressure and,
Yeah, I'd have to I'm gonna have to do some research on
okay.
that.
But I really think we should have a policy, because I was told by the fire department that they haven't heard back. And it could have been a year or two ago. Have some kind of
Yeah,
policy
if
that
you talk to someone there, let them know and give them my card, I'll give my,
Oh, it's the fire chief.
Yeah.
I talk to Wes all the time, so like,
Well, this was about a month ago.
I talk to Wes about once a month, so.
All right, well, I do too. So,
talk to him again and clear it up.
Yeah,
I just think.
definitely will talk to him again. Yes.
Get it done.
What we can do is.
We were literally working on new hydrants, and actually we were talking about getting remote hydrants, and he wants us to put stuff in, so. We talk all the time about hydrants and fire stuff, and so I'm not sure where the message is coming back to you that,
Well, this was about a month ago, so if it was in between that, that's. So, but he's gonna be basically in charge of the whole divide pretty much, except for Cal Fire. So, where it looks like
No,
Garden Valley.
you're not cool.
They're not
He's
inside
gonna
the
be a
cool.
part of it.
No,
Valley
except for
Hill.
Cal Fire. They're cool.
Well, that's where Eldorado.
Eldorado County is cool.
Yeah. The other one. But pretty much Mosquito, Georgetown and Garden Valley is gonna be pretty much under one umbrella.
One point of notice. The districts aren't liable for the proper operation of the hydrants if they're not working. They're liable to maintain them, but they're not liable for any damages that occur because they're not operating. So just.
It's a
You're
very,
responsible to
That's
repair, but
that's
you're
an
not
awful fine line you're trying to draw here, and it,
Very important.
because.
Very,
it
well,
is incredibly important because you don't want to get sued when somebody's house burns
Yeah,
down, because
if
it's
you-
not our fault.
Yeah, if you guys don't, if hydrants are broken, no other entity is financially responsible to fix them but you guys.
Correct.
But there is no entity that's necessarily liable if there are damages caused by their inoperation.
Correct.
So if you don't fix it, you're not responsible and you've been
Government
notified?
agencies have government immunity based on their, how they act with their policies.
So there, any other, items?
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this, function at the end of the month, can the irrigation committee have a presence there?
Yeah, we're actually, we have a special, we're gonna announce and thank the irrigation committee. You're welcome to come. Yeah, everybody's invited.
Yeah, because we didn't meet last month and this didn't come up at the prior irrigation meeting that I remember. And I mean, I've obviously heard about this because it's been discussed at this.
So this is a board issue, it wouldn't be an irrigation.
Is that
committee.
Friday?
Yeah.
The Friday night,
Friday.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it would be a great place to irrigation committee to have some kind of a presence or some kind of a way to reach out to the public about.
Yeah, you're welcome to walk around, talk to folks, invite more, I mean, we only have 4 members now, so.
Yeah.
If you talk to anybody who might be interested in joining the committee, we will take a time in the middle, of the 2 bands, so there will be a band in the beginning, and then we're gonna do thanking all of the staff, and then thanking all of the committee members. So we will be recognizing you all as committee members and, just, talking about what you do and how you do it and why it's important when you meet, stuff like that. So there will be some information given out about that.
Okay.
We will finish public comment, Director Seaman, because I also have comments on that too. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Any online? Okay, closing public comments before I get to Director Seaman. If our Director GM, if we could also send out an invite to our committee chairs, and this way also give them time to we can recruit also, because the finance committee needs members as well as the irrigation committee.
Yeah, they will be
That'll be a
invited.
good time to get that public outreach in. Director Seaman.
And could you provide that, like the irrigation committee or at least, Christie, the information on, and have available the, irrigation ordinance and or how to be, on the committee, that information, so they have it available to them?
Sure, when you did the ordinance, do you want me to print out ordinances to hand out, or you want like a QR code or something?
Well, the QR code is only if someone's high tech, but
Yes, we
the
can.
hard copy, if they have a few available, that if, the committee can have, each one of them at least have 1 or 2, that if they want to talk to somebody about it, they have something right there to hand it. Or if it's at our booth, which I'm assuming we have a booth there.
We will have a booth, we'll be
So,
giving out
to
our
have-
ducks and our stuff and we'll be having information and stuff like that, yeah, absolutely.
Right, but that's one thing I would like to have available, since, this is the big water thing.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can do all that. That's
Right, so
totally
that, so that's why I'm asking
Ordinances, we
specifically.
can print a few of those out, and that's a lot of pages, so that's why I'm asking. We can also do a QR code if somebody doesn't want to take the paper with them.
Right, I'm just saying the few that's hard copied.
Sure.
And is there a budget?
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even, yes, but we've gotten 12 different sponsors that have all given us money that we will probably be able to stay very well within the budget. We've, I think $7,000 we've raised in sponsorships, almost.
That they're actually paying.
They're already paid.
That's what I'm saying. They're
They wouldn't be on the list if they wouldn't have
like
paid.
money donate.
The only one who didn't give us money was the rec district because they gave us the park for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they wouldn't be on this list if they haven't given us money.
Okay.
All right, public comment is closed. Any other director comments on these items? Okay, we will move to committee reports. I know finance committee didn't meet. The next meeting.
We have not met with either, the committees haven't met.
Okay, so there will be no reports needed on that. Go to the action items, item 11, legislative update. We do have action item on that.
Which one?
This is item 11. It's tab 11.
No, which one of the,
It says right on the top, support Assembly Bill 706 and Assembly Bill 1436. And for the public, just to let them know, AB 706 is a new fund that they want to put in, which would establish a forest and wildfire prevention fund within the state treasury, and this will help deal with reducing fuels for wildfires, also building money to help with biomat projects. And the bill prohibits the use of ratepayer funds to fund the fund, so it's a way to protect the customers and ratepayers from having to deal with a lot of the wildfire issues that we have to do, because all of us in Northern California, that's an extra expense we have on our water bills, because we also have to take care of the forest and the vegetation mitigation as well. And AB 1436 is a state resource air pollution regulation, so CARB tried to expand their purview of which vehicles would be under the CARB, and they wanted to move it to private and contracted vehicles. And this would make an exception for if the district goes out and we hire someone to contract that contracted fleet doesn't have to be under CARB rules. So it kind of started to go into the private and corporate area, which is probably above their reach. That's a quick overview. If anyone had any questions on it, any of the directors. Well, let's review any public comments on those two items, and there is the matrix of all the bills that we support, whether it's federal level, state level, and the regulatory ones, which is the CARB and the voluntary agreements are there. Okay,
They're voting on these two right now.
yes,
Ready for motion?
all right. No other public comment, closing public comment. Is there a motion?
Motion support for Assembly Bill 706 and Assembly Bill 1436.
Second,
Second,
roll call vote, please, Taylor.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman,
Aye.
Director Stovall,
aye.
Director Fisher.
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, item 12. Review the irrigation committee member update. Staff report on that?
I will turn this directly over to board member Seaman, who wanted to discuss the irrigation committee update for the irrigation ordinance and some language that is in the irrigation ordinance. So I know this is something that we've talked about a few times, so she has a few questions, and I think Brian also worked on this as well in interpreting the ordinance and how this could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was brought up because we took on a irrigation committee member that is not directly an irrigation customer, which is how it was, meant to be when this, role and responsibilities was created. In the situation, and there's been a couple of situations I've run into where there's actually one legal paying customer and the rest have been 4 or 5, however many, get use of the water, but they don't pay for, they don't pay us for the water. So they are not an account holder. They pay this one parcel, whoever the account holder is. So basically, if he cut off, they are no longer getting irrigation. So they really don't have all the requirements of having, the backflow preventer and everything else individually, which then makes me question also, if these people are receiving irrigation water from from the account holder, do each one of these parcels have a backflow preventer to prevent them from receiving that irrigation water that could get into our potable water system? So that's the whole flag that this was allowed to happen long before we were involved. But it needs to be looked at and possibly figured out how it can be corrected, to one, protect our water system, B, when we have someone that was invited to come into the committee that really wasn't an account holder, that it makes, it sort of loses the reason why we have people that are on this committee. So I guess that was one of the things that came up later, that if this water is being distributed, and I remember when I first came on that it was kind of brought up and we didn't know why it was being brought up about this sharing, that I can throw a hose over the fence and or run a line over to my neighbors and let them have water, but they're not required to have any of the backflow preventers or any of that stuff to prevent our potable water system from getting contaminated, but I'm allowed to do this. So this flagged up more than just having somebody who is on our committee being on the committee. I still don't think that we should be changing or, pulling this sub person that has no documentation within our system. So we, as a district, we are not aware of them as a district. They don't pay bills to us. So we cannot go after them for anything, is how I'm seeing it. So this is a big kind of convoluted oops that's happened over time that I think legally we need to start looking at and correct that problem. And also, we have an individual on our committee that receives this gifted water basically from the district. I don't see a reason to remove her at this time, but I don't want to backslide and keep allowing this to happen. I think it still needs to be under the same premise. If you have an account for irrigation, you have the right to apply for the irrigation committee. So it caused me it made me think too much.
I can address the backflow, but I mean, if we need to, whenever the time's right. Yeah, so I think the backflow, I think it's absolutely important that we have some kind of tracking for these accounts that.
Do we have?
No, we don't.
That was what I figured out.
Yeah, so I think it could be as simple as, writing the ordinance where it's when you apply for irrigation water, you have to Because how it's written in the ordinance now is like, yeah, it's
I can-
upon board approval. But I think we have to have that every year with our application that shows if there is an account that has, that does share this water.
Yeah.
It has to show what parcel you sharing with APN, so then we can, as a district, we can go back and say, like, you know, have input on this too, but I mean, I think that's critical to protect the water system, because if they are sharing and they're a treated water customer, we are definitely at risk for some kind of
Yeah,
scenario,
so-
for sure.
Each one of those parcels need to have a backflow
They
preventer.
should, yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is all flagged into now.
And it's hard to, right now, to see how that, without some kind of input from the customer, and if they don't comply with that, could be written into the ordinance, they're not complying, that we have no like teeth. To really to say you don't get irrigation at water at all, if not all of these parcels, and if we find out one is, we can just disconnect it at that point.
And then the other thing I think Frank was supposed to check into is, do I, as a customer, can I charge people for irrigation water?
So I have a lot to say about this. And I almost wish I had,
You need to talk to me sooner?
I know, I wish I,
It needs to come to the whole board, so.
yeah, it's a really interesting topic, and I just went through a massive update of another irrigation district's irrigation policies specifically on this in the Central Valley. So I'm very familiar with and what Adam said about the issues of their infrastructure potentially causing issues with your system is the key consideration,
Yes.
particularly legally, because you need to be able to have the authority to enter through that, what we call a private system, to be able to shut it off or to access it, or just to inspect it to make sure it's up to certain standards. Because if they share, that private system that they have is on private lands that you can't access, because once that point of diversion hits, your right is done. And so you need to be able to have that ability to have access. And if a customer or
They're not a
someone with
customer.
contract, yeah, they have to comply with that ordinance that would say you have to give a right of ingress and egress to the district if you're going to have a private system, really at any point. And the district can come onto your property and basically shut off your system if it's not in compliance with the standards of the districts. And that's all to protect that infrastructure kind of up or downstream. You know, whatever it is, because you just can't have like hoses into the canal to do it. I mean, there has to be some standard if they're gonna be allowing other people all the parcels around. The other considerations is if you have parcels that are at the edge of your district and the parcels that are being served are outside of your district, is that a problem? I would say yes, but your customers don't know that.
Right.
You know, they don't necessarily know that their neighbors are outside of the district, but for you all it is, because LAFCO would see that as an out-of-district contract.
Yes.
The question of can they sell it? That's
Ding, ding, ding.
yeah, so that's a really gray area.
Yeah.
Gray,
That would be a board decision, and I would say no, because what if people charge at above the rate? So I mean,
But
I
they-
think what we need to do is we need to have a policy on subcontracting, and I think
Or
those
not
are the-
allow it.
Well, I think too, real quick before you go on your thought there, like our water rights say you can't resell it. So
Yeah,
we're showing it more.
exactly, yeah.
they have to put it in beneficial use.
So in other words,
Yeah.
so the water's coming to me and I have now. I'm spending $700 and I'm dividing it by 5 parcels and they are paying me for my water that I'm getting from the district. Without backflow preventers on their houses, I don't think we really want to go
But I'm
down.
not even going down that road.
Well,
I said
I'm
if we're.
saying to be able to give,
Well, let you finish what I'm saying. So we have two choices here. If we want to have subcontractors, it has to be clear if someone is allowing someone else to use it. It's just like renting a house. So that person would be subcontracting it. They would have to come to the board for approval. You would have to know the parcel. we would have to have the ability to have an easement to inspect it, to make sure it has a backflow and access to be able to cut it off and be specifically clear that they cannot sell it. That's if we're going to allow that. So the other way to go is if there is someone that wants irrigation, then just like everybody else, they apply for irrigation and we get them hooked up to the system. So that might be the better course of action. So I think it's not an action item today, but that's what we can bring back is subcontractors or not, and then that'll, yes, then this brings up a whole policy issue now, and then it goes away pretty quickly.
I'm
I
gonna
guess the-
complicate it.
The question is.
Yeah.
Can we have subcontractors? I don't think legally we can,
Well,
but, and because they aren't really subcontractors, but they are selling our water to somebody else. Legally, can we do that?
yeah, so
Or can they do that?
it has to be viewed from the aspect of, are they selling it? Not necessarily, because they could be just splitting the bill.
One person gets the bill,
Mhm,
all the other ones are on parcels
mhm.
that this one subdivided his property and then allowed all these people to reap the benefit of use and charges them for it.
Sure, totally get it. So then here's maybe a better way to make the distinction. When you approve a account holder, a customer, do you limit the water's use to the parcels that are owned by that customer?
It's kind of implied, I would say, but we don't necessarily.
Can I make a comment? In section 4, item I, it says no more than one parcel shall be served through each irrigation service account. However, consent will be given with prior written approval from the board. So it sounds like for this to even exist,
Has that person gotten prior,
do they have?
and that's what we
if
need to
not,
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to me, the language is there, but
Yeah.
somehow we didn't know about these housing division of.
What this meant,
Yeah, exactly.
ultimately what this
So-
is, because I remember when this went in.
Yeah,
And we all went, why would we do this? And we questioned it and never got.
I think it was just like we had a couple of accounts that had they been like that, you know.
I get it, but that wasn't made clear
So, yeah,
to the
yeah,
board.
yeah.
So I guess what we need is, were they granted and do we have it in writing? If we don't, then woo-hoo, that's a whole nother game. And, you know, legally, can they sell
Yeah.
or we sell it to them and then is that where the line stops?
And yeah, and I think that, so I'll go back, if a sale in this aspect is a transfer of water to a separate entity, if entity isn't necessarily associated with the person that's on the account, entity would be who uses it. If I collectively with all of my friends have a farm and the ownership of said farm is segregated, the question would be, do all of us need to be on the account? No, not necessarily, because we're all kind of collectively using the water and
But
operating.
these are specific parcels.
Yeah, but
These
and
are
that
very specific parcels.
and so then that collective could be on separate parcels. And so what I'm saying is the sale, can you sell it? No, but are they selling? No.
Well, they are.
Well, they,
How do you say
What
that?
it's sell, right?
right, that's where I'm getting at is what is sale? Just because they're dividing up the actual bill at the end of them, doesn't mean that it's a sale.
Right.
And so if it's $100 to each person and there's 7 and it's $700 and everybody's paying that total bill, but they're paying their proportionate share based on their usage, that's not necessarily a sale. But I'm gonna make it even more confusing.
Well, that's fine because I still don't agree with that.
And that's fine, yeah.
Because if I'm handing you, it's like, if I'm handing you this hose to run and you're paying me for the water that I'm getting. Or is it making money? We don't even know that. We don't know
Right,
the
we don't-
legal, what is the legal binding document allowing them to get it and have to pay.
In the most cases that I've seen with this, it's a handshake deal.
No, I think
That's-
this is more.
And I do not like handshake deals. You
Yeah.
know, that's why I told at this front, like, you need to have this in writing, in policy approved by you guys, so that you have that control. But I'm gonna make it a little bit more complicated. So with a lot of water, county water irrigation districts, those things, they have the ability to set up improvement districts, which you guys do as well. In those improvement districts, those assets, like private districts, aren't necessarily owned by the district, but you have to have some infrastructure there. And so the individuals that receive the water through that either improvement district or private district will pay in yearly maintenance costs above the actual cost of the water. So if they were supposed to pay $100, well, they pay that holder essentially 150, with the assumption that that $50 would go into the maintenance of that, you know, extension line or the piping or whatever it is that connects. But that in a private system, I mean, who knows what's going on because it's a private system. Yeah, which is incredibly problematic. To your point of what's a sale, which confuses it even more because I don't know what's being sold, how it's being paid for, or what the accounting is.
Right. And back to the backflows.
Well, the backflow.
Every one of those houses would need to have a backflow preventer on them.
So sorry to confuse it even more.
No, that's
Into
fine.
the weeds, but yeah.
We need all the documents to be able
I
to.
think the
interpret
issues
this
that comes out is, the holder, the parcels, and then if we're gonna allow it to go beyond that parcel at all, as opposed to that parcel coming to us.
And we may want to look at removing this.
Well, that's the thing we'll. bring
That's
up,
the
so-
ultimate.
So the next, item that we will have, we'll discuss, do we want to allow the person that is the primary irrigation miner's inch holder to be able to share that to a parcel outside of their own? So that will be the major issue. And then if that's a no, that makes this a lot easier. And then we just have to deal with the ones that were there before and let them know this is phasing out. And anybody that wants to receive that would have to, apply for irrigation.
Put their own line in.
Because it is a liability with that backflow, and that's a huge issue because it would contaminate the entire system.
There's no reason to allow the sharing if they physically can connect to the system.
Correct.
In that instance, you could have literally one account holder for your entire district. That could,
Ding, ding, ding.
so obviously you can't have that, you know, so you could take it to an extreme, but.
Yes, that's true.
So we need to find out if the district has granted them this right. If there's no documentation and it was a handshake,
It's,
then it's whatever we
the
do.
board has the authority, so the district doesn't have the authority, so it's always board, so.
Right, but did the board, because as it states in here,
Yeah.
did the board grant them this right? That's what we have to find out.
Yeah, I think it's.
And now we have
I
to
think it's
back up from
nebulous
there.
from our ordinance, so we'll have to clearly define it, and just like when the backflows, we had that whole educational system, and then when we started enforcing it, we'll have to have this whole educational system as well, and whatever we decide moving forward, so. Okay, we'll bring it to public comment. Sherry?
For Adam, where is the backflow? That's protecting the treated water, or if they have a well, they would need one
Yes.
also?
They're gonna need one, yeah, the wells are getting phased in now, so, yeah, they will need one at our well.
Okay,
Or have an old-
so then it's not, so how are they connecting, say up where Rena is? You have one valve coming in or one box. How are these people typically?
Is how a contamination event.
How are these other parcels connecting to the one box?
Oh, so they may not be connecting, they're not connecting the box, they'd be connecting somewhere else on that property.
On the ditch?
No,
Oh,
No, they're
it's
connecting
after-
inside the main account holder's property,
yeah.
right,
So the
so
main-
it's coming through a,
like a pond or something, like they're taking it out of a pond or something.
so they're not actually taking it from their box, from the
Not
irrigation.
narrow.
There's like a pipe that comes out of the box and then
And
it
then they're
splits
just
from all there, yeah.
That's the typical.
Yeah,
So they're not connecting by pipes to the other property, Jim?
no,
Okay.
and then, well, I'll wait till public comments done before going into it. Any other
Yeah.
public comments?
Um, I'd love to have the irrigation committee discuss this. The, the other fly in the ointment I would see is, although Adam was just saying something about the people who have wells now are gonna have to have some kind of a backflow preventer, even if the well and the irrigation are separated by whatever, many yards and feet.
Yeah.
And the irrigation comes in lower than the well, we still have to have.
Yeah, if there's more than one source besides that potable water source, it's even, the new guidance is if there's just a natural pond there.
Yeah.
That and that's enough to have a cross connection requirement.
Yeah, cause,
So that's
because where our situation is, we're up country, so there's no potable water up there, it's, everybody's on wells. And,
Right, but
but-
if you had any, yeah, well, yeah, you're talking
Yeah,
about
you'd be
water, so,
fine.
yeah,
You don't have,
yeah.
you're not included in this.
As long as you're not in
Yeah.
DPUD custom.
so what if you're up country, so like when we first moved here, we had a neighbor that actually tried to steal some of our water, but that was a whole nother crazy situation. But apparently, there had been some agreements between some of the neighbors about using our water at some point, and different people dropped out of that because the person that we purchased from had actually been a former employee of the district and knew better. And but I would hate to disenfranchise people who already are getting district water. Because to me, it sounds a bit like our situation, we've been getting district water. But, we're the only one on our connection getting it, but that we're technically out of the district up until hopefully the end of this month. But there are people on the divide that have been getting water historically, apparently, through these junctures. And they're certainly recipients, they're certainly adding benefit to the divide. The same arguments that we made about us joining the district is that this is water safety, it's our fire safety, having more water, having more irrigated pastures and stuff out there. I think those people who are part of these connections are certainly stakeholders in, it's in some sense. And I would really like to see the district figure out a way to help them become included. And, I don't know how, I understand all these legal, I understand what you're saying about the connections and, it sounds right like renting a house, and if you got a roommate that decides they don't want to pay the rent, you're still stuck because your name's on the lease. Or road associations or anything else that I've ever dealt with in my life. That there are issues around these things, and but I do think this is something that the irrigation committee ought to be discussing now.
No, this is policy.
This is beyond.
This is policy.
Yeah,
Big
This is
can't be
policy.
policy.
This is digging into old policy and creating
Yeah,
new.
I would just hate to see people who are getting water and have had water for a long period of time or any period of time be disenfranchised at this point. But yeah, it's gotta be done legally, I would think.
Well, actually, it's been
We'll
20
get
years.
back after.
Yeah,
after they're done.
Required.
Yeah,
Just getting around it.
yeah, I mean,
All
yeah.
right, yep.
But is it the same thing if you have treated water and a well on your property? You
Yes.
wouldn't know. So how do you even know people have that?
Yeah,
You don't. So they're still,
Yeah, I don't think is it
That's-
official yet? It's probably not.
Well, it's already.
We probably you have to, when you put in a well, you have to go through a whole bunch of processes. So
yeah, but I'm talking.
if it was done before,
50
then
years, yeah. so I'm talking-
then that's the issue. But anybody who put in the well now, that's part of the process, so.
And the new requirements for the district to do a survey on every single parcel within the district for the next 6 years, so that's how we'll find out.
If they let you on their property. You try to come
We
up.
have-
The county, well, the county, when they drill a well, they have to have a county
And the
permit.
county does
So
have.
the
a-
county would theoretically have to contact us or talk to us and let us know that now you have to enforce a backflow here. So, I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
there's always like chinks in the armor, but
yeah.
you know, there typically or should be methodologies and metrics to get all those things to coincide.
But then you have the problem of the people that just ignore, say they're not selling water and just go ahead and do it anyway. So that's.
Yes, we have that all the time. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do. I mean, we do the best we can and we stop the ones we can, but
Yeah.
there's always somebody doing nefarious things that.
We're getting conversational now, so I'm gonna have to close down public comment or else that it'll get stuck in the audience. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, and yeah, I agree with that, but we also have to protect our customers, so we can't, I mean, if there is an ability for them to apply and have irrigation, that's probably the thing that we'll have to decide as a board what we want to do. As opposed to, I know people have ponds and stuff, and this may affect those ponds, but once again, if it's about access, it's about contamination. And it's also about what happens to that person when they sell their property and move, and then they're like, hey, I don't wanna, deal with this person. This is my property. I'm not dealing with you. And that creates a whole bunch of legal and contentious issues. So we have to consider all of that moving forward.
Especially like that property, if the property owner is of age and shortly, I would say, in probably, 5-10 years, the property is gonna change hands and then it's all gonna erupt into something. So that's why I would say, it would be wise to find out what the board originally agreed to on this, for this parcel.
Yeah.
Which was huge and then subdivided and sold. And now there are multiple people on that or have access to that irrigation that have a potential to hurt our system. And that's what we have to be concerned about as a board, is how are we going to protect our districts and our customers? And hurting 4 people or whatever in protection of our district, it's kind of weigh it out.
Thank you for making it muddy and crazier, but it's important to get this, because down the road, this can be a huge issue. And the problem that came up before 10 years ago was that person wasn't able to get water, so they stopped irrigation, and that all the people downstream didn't have any, and that was a huge problem as well. So that also helps negate that if they're all able to go in, especially if they were paying in before. So this is something that we'll bring back, and everybody keep in their minds, and probably start talking to your irrigation customer friends and stuff, so we can kind of get the public feel for this when we bring it back. So
Stay tuned.
yes, thank you for this, Donna.
Make me think about things.
Yes.
Game on.
All righty, item 13, consider changing the board director compensation rate. And I think that was also gonna bring back a look at what the medical process is for this.
Yeah, so this brought up from the last meeting. We had kind of a discussion with legal, and I'll turn it over to him in a minute, but I will give kind of a quick overview of what I've learned. As far as I understand, you can do the 20% increase per year. However, you do have to change to the 10 meeting compensation plan. And then the 20% would be on each of those meetings. So
5%.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I-
5%. 20% would be so much better, and I apologize. I'm almost here. So basically how that would work is you convert to the $1,000 potential per month, 10 meetings, and you could apply for a 5% increase each year. So that would basically take it from like 100 to 105, and then the next year it'd be like 112.50, stuff like that. And then you had a question about medical. So in the discussion with legal on medical is you all are eligible for any medical that we have as employees that you would like to choose. So if you approve it for yourself, you could choose up to what we receive, but not anything different or over and better than what we receive. So we have a certain dental policy that you all could have access to. We have a certain eye policy that you could have access to. And we have a certain umbrella medical policy that you guys could have access to under the same conditions that we have. And those are all through Aqua JPIA. You're all employees of the district because you are considered employee as you get a paycheck from us. So it would be done in the same manner that an employee gets medical. So if there's anything I missed, I'll let Brian kind of jump in, and if there's any questions, he's probably the better legal mind, but that is what we did discuss.
Fantastic summary. The only thing I have to add is that just a little nuance. Under your current yearly reimbursement or compensation, you can do that by resolution. It's easy, it's basically done, and you never have to touch it. Or if you go to the per day and elect to do it in a way that allows you to increase from year to year, you have to set it up as an ordinance, which is just a little bit more burdensome on the public hearing and advertising. So that's the only consideration I'm going to provide. On the health insurance, spot on. I don't think that this would apply to this district, but I do usually say, just to make sure your budget can handle it, you know, just because if it doesn't, or if it pushes, there's oftentimes a lot of PR issues with directors getting health care when they're not technically employees. Though for most water districts, school boards, things like that have higher responsibility. They do offer healthcare, so it's not necessarily a problem. I wouldn't see it as a problem, but like some of my very small districts, they would potentially not want to do that, even if they're, just because the public would see that as not a good use of funds. So just, I would just keep that in back there. Also, you get it if you know or retire as a board member, you get it afterwards as well.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't think that we were thinking of going the route of like the umbrella medical policy, but I think there was the option if a board member did want to do dental or vision, if we wanted to provide that, because that was one resolution that specifically removed that. So that was something that would be discussed, and it would be a board option. It's not mandated. So if anyone wanted to opt for it, they could do it.
So I will caution you, and I would have to talk to JPIA. The way it works with our employees, it's all or none.
It's all or none.
I don't know how it works with you all as board members.
Yeah,
so
you can ask.
that'd be a question I'd have to get some more clarity on.
Okay.
What do you mean, all or one?
All or none. So for like our dental plan, we can only offer the dental to every employee. I can't take out certain employees. So like we have certain employees who get like medical from their spouse, or sorry, dental from their spouse, or dental from the military, or whatever it is. So technically our policy is kind of moot to them. It doesn't do them any good.
Right.
I cannot not pay for them to have it because of the way the policy is written as part of JPIA. So it's an all or none. Same with our eye insurance. The medical, we do have a little bit of option on, but we have to it's the employee, we have to pay for like the employee only part. So that's where I'd have to ask questions.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying that it would be open to all the board members if we do it, but they wouldn't not necessarily have to take it, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah, I'm sure that there's an option. I mean, we obviously aren't including you now, so if we added one or two of you in because you opted in, then I don't think that'd be an issue. There was something else that you had said that I wanted to talk about.
Mentions for healthcare after they leave.
Something triggered and I wanted to make sure I brought it up. I'll think about it in a second.
If that were the case, the board member would pay 100% of that cost of the health insurance.
Yeah.
There would be no district sharing of costs.
Yeah, they just have the option to receive it through.
Okay.
yeah. Director Seaman?
So we're talking three different items here, basically. One changing us from
Oh, wait.
400.
Sorry, then my brain, I'm so sorry, I interrupt you because my brain was start working and I totally squirreled and I'm so sorry.
So we're talking the 400, we're talking the up to 1,000, and we're separately talking medical.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that's
So
what I
the
was,
400, you have no option. But the thing I wanted to remember is there is a potential option
no option for
to
what?
change it, to get more money than the 400.
Right, yeah, we
The
kind of knew that,
cost
but
of
what I-
living, but there is a potential to change the way that the law is, so that 400.
Yeah, so that was what I was gonna suggest, is we could write legislation that could update and revisit that part of the public utility code, which is probably about time for that to be revisited. And we could suggest Aqua sponsor a bill to have them look at capping that higher. And then you all as a board member could work with anywhere within that range of, say they capped it at 1,000. I'm just using round numbers. I'm not saying that's what we would do. You all could say, well, we want to increase ours to 500 this year and then 600 next year, or something like that, to give you a little bit of cost of living increase. That would be over and above the 400. The 1,000, 10 meeting at 1,000, is the only option you have now to do any kind of increases as you go forward, because that is part of the code that is existing. And then, yes, you're correct. The third piece is if you all want to opt into any parts of the medical package that we have, there is an option for you to do that.
Yeah, cause I think most of us probably have medical.
Yeah, it would be a double dip for me. No,
Well, legally,
Except
we
for-
can't double dip.
well, not, that's the wrong term.
Yeah, and he's saying if you have like
It
a
would
secondary
pay for
insurance,
the-
co-insurance is not double dipping technically.
It would be,
Well, or a
pay
spouse.
for the deductible.
Right,
Yes, because you have like Medicare or something
Right.
along those lines, I
Yeah.
imagine. It's not technically double dipping. That is
That's the wrong term.
previous insurance. You would have co-insurance.
Correct, that's the wrong
Right.
term.
so, yeah, that's, cause that's what I was looking at, cause I mean. I know when I retired, that's why I retired from where I retired. And I'm assuming you're under the old state system, which had medical at retirement also.
No, I was, nonprofit
Oh,
with no retirement, but that's not business here.
But down the line, there could be board members that are younger that don't have it, so we must consider for not just us in perpetuity, so it's.
And that's my input, is that we need to look at the future board to attract people to this table.
Director Saunders, I just want to make sure you guys saw the director right now.
Director McDonald?
Okay, I am having a little trouble getting all the nuances and hearing everything, but I just wanted to reiterate. So what we've always thought, where we could get a 5% increase on $400, that's not a thing anymore.
No, the option you'd have on the $400 is we could write new legislation that
Got
could
it.
address it, which is probably the easiest thing that we could do. The only time you could have any kind of increase percentage wise is on the 10 meetings at 1,000 a month. And that would only go 5% at a time. So every meeting would be 100 up to 105 and
Yeah.
then up 5% from there.
Thanks for clearing up that 6-year rumor that I've been,
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
it doesn't work out.
now it's not a rumor. Thank you. And as far as the medical you were saying, like this last week and a half, and I don't have dental coverage as a retiree right now. I asked 2 of the board members, they did, I don't. I had a root canal, a cap, and a tooth extraction this week. So dental would be great, for me. But I do have health coverage. Are you saying that if we did have health coverage, we'd have to, what did you mean by buy into it?
No, you don't have to buy into it. That might have been, the terminology may not be correct there. Basically, what you would get is whatever the employees get, the employees share. So, for example, if I were getting insurance for myself, we would get 100% of the plan paid for. So, whatever plan you pick, Anthem or Kaiser, it's you get the 100% of what the lowest cost one is. So I hate to throw a number out there, but say it's $1,000. We would pay that premium, and then you'd have the coverage as that'd be the umbrella medical. For our eye insurance, we have a family plan, so everybody, we would have the same plan. Everybody in your family would get eye insurance.
Mhm.
And then for the dental, same with the umbrella medical, we have employee up to a certain amount that you get, and then you can get the dental, and our dental is through Delta Dental right now.
And so would you need to have the health insurance to get the dental?
No, the dental is separate. They're all three separate entities. They're all three, we have three different insurances.
Oh, okay. So in my case, I'm lacking the dental, so I have Social Security and coverage. So, okay, thanks for clearing it up. I heard it wrong before. So thank you.
And does that include it after retirement? When you quit the district,
Yes, you would
is
be,
that when it stops?
you would be eligible if you wanted to keep it. However, that would be 100% on,
That you would pay the cost? I would be paying the cost.
yes.
So it's all based
Would
on,
be paying district costs for medical, dental, or eye.
and I think that there is a nuance there as well, and I don't know, I'll let Brian answer this, but this is something that triggers in my brain is the amount of years you have on the board. It might also trigger some of the longevities of you actually get it where we pay for it. So that, I don't know, and I'll let Brian say that, but I would say that you, because since you're an employee, technically, as long as you meet the same longevity standards of the employees, you would get the same.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. The question doesn't come up as much. So the majority of the districts that do offer it, they just offer it to their retired trustees or directors at 100% of the cost to that person, which is usually cheaper than if they go out on their own because they're getting a better deal. But I do think there is some nuance, but I'd have to look it up.
It's just thing I'm thinking about, and I know none of you all have enough time on the board yet to qualify, but soon you will.
Doesn't it take like 20 years?
No, we're at
Oh,
like 10 or 15.
Oh, 10, 15, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And that compensation one is pretty easy for us. I think, we've discussed this many times. We're gonna stay with the 400 and try to get the cost of living on that. So it looks like we're gonna be writing legislation for that one.
Can they, is there a chance they can make a motion or a direction to me to work with, say Aqua or other organization to work on legislation for that, or is that outside the scope of it?
No, they can absolutely do that. That's related.
So if you want to, I think you can make a motion to,
Yeah, we'll add that to the motion and then we'll, continue, because the medical can be done at any time. So we'll continue to look at, the options of the separate medical stuff that we put in.
and we meet on that in October, so now is the perfect time to start writing something in.
Any other discussion from board members? Seeing none, public? Sherry?
Okay. About 10 years ago, there was a big blow up because the board had the district pay for their insurance, the board members. So are you saying there's no qualifications that can start in year one? If you pass something, you can get 100% coverage on insurance?
I was just going to discuss dental and vision for,
I could see that because a lot of retirees don't have the
yeah,
dental.
that's all I was discussing.
For sure, okay.
I'll answer your question with, the answer is yes. Theoretically, the answer is yes.
Even on year one?
Yep.
Once
That-
you're an
You're
employee,
just like an employee. It's just like an employee. So our employees start in insurance coverage day one. So it would be the same,
We
as
don't
long
have
as you're,
probation?
even during probation, they get
we're,
coverage.
we're elected for 4 years, so
Probation?
Okay.
there is no probation. There
We're
is,
elected.
it's called,
Yeah, it's called a 4-year
it's
probation.
called recall. That's what our probation is.
You have a 4-year probation.
It's called recall.
Well, if possibly if they wanted to buy into it, the medical, but I can't see the district paying medical. I could see the dental and the eye because it's probably not that much.
Am I right that what we can do and what we're going to do may be very different things? We're just asking for a presentation to come back on what the options and price tags for the options are at this
We
point.
need to know the dollar amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other, public? All right, public comments closed, so I think we have clear direction on both sides, so. If we'd like to make a motion on that compensation and legislative note, then the medical is still being looked at to be brought back.
Motion, we direct staff to, how would you say, initiate discussions, with Aqua on proposed legislation for compensation increases and bring back a, analysis of costs and options for medical, vision, and dental insurance.
I second.
You still have your hand up.
There we go.
All right, roll call vote, please, Sarah.
Director McDonald,
Aye.
Director Seaman,
Aye.
Director Stovall,
Aye.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Saunders.
Aye. And then, if we are keeping the 400 the same, is there any action on that, or there's no action in it? All right.
If you want, did you give direction for me to work with legislation? I missed, I'm sorry, I was talking about something else.
Direction.
And I worded it so well.
I can watch the video, I promise.
Yeah, direction to work on legislation and research and bring back the money for the medical.
Got it. Yeah, I'll start working on that with the Aqua folks and the state ledge people.
All right, we have a closed session.
Yes.
Any public comment on closed session?
Now I need some tape if somebody wants me to put this up.
Tape, yeah, I can get you some tape.
All right, my next meeting starts in 15 minutes. How are we doing?
We should be quick. I don't know about 15 minutes quick, but we should be quick.
So with that, we'll ask everybody to leave for closed session. If anybody has anything else they want to see on the next agenda, you can bring it up quickly, and then if not, we'll see you at our next meeting, which I don't know when it exactly is
You
gonna
can keep
be.
Oh.
There's not much left in
I should get it back for you.
No, we got 10 seconds.
I know, but I'm gonna take
Oh,
a break
yeah,
and then
all
come
right.
down. That's where I'm
it.
at.
Okay, nice to meet you.
I am
Was-
gonna stop
we
the
were gonna meet, but
recording.
you have-
If not. All right, it's what is it?
6:49.
6:49. We have returned from closed session. There is nothing to report out at this time. Are there any board member requests for additions for future meeting agendas? Director Stovall?
I expect to be missing the September meeting and request that any significant business be addressed in either the August or the October meeting.
So the only significant business that we do in September is an evaluation for me.
So I'd like to move that up.
All right. If there's anything that is.
Would that be in the August 3rd meeting?
Yes.
I don't know if, we'll see if legal can get it together by then. We'll try, yes.
What was that
That's fine.
request?
To move up the evaluation to August 3rd for our general manager.
Oh, to give us plenty of time?
Well, Director Stovall won't be able to make the September meeting, so we'll move any
Oh,
significant business outside of that.
was that meeting date changed for August, by the way?
Yes, so it's now tentatively going to be August 3rd at 10 o'clock.
Replacing the 16th for the
Oh,
3rd.
okay.
Oh, the 9th.
We have to do tax liens and it has to be done before August 10th. That's the deadline to get any tax lien paperwork to the county.
August 3rd at 10 o'clock. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are we having another meeting in August?
That is the one for
That's the
August.
one meeting, okay.
Okay, so I can get rid of the Wednesday, the 12th one.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And I will let Frank know to reach out to you all directly on that.
Okay, so then
And
we
Brian
go
will too.
to September. And the trust is we don't have a meeting on
Well,
the,
significant business.
It'll just be
So
general.
we'll see what, like things like that he wants to be a
I
part of,
mean,
like the
you,
general
me,
manager.
and has to be here if he's up in the sky.
Yes, everybody will need to be here, correct. All right. I guess seeing no other additional agenda items, we are. Oh, I thought you were adding something else up.
No,
We're adjourned.
Okay, great.
Okay.